So, finally, we're now testing the Ecamm Live application here in a very weird setup. I've literally got the Elgato HD 60S Plus pumping video and audio through from my PC into a little Mac Mini, which is using Ecamm Live and streaming. Why would you do that, Rock, I hear you ask? Well, basically because it has some nice little features that are only available on higher price streaming applications for Windows. So I'm testing it. It may work, it may not work. It would be a weird setup, a combination of using both OBS and other applications on the Windows PC and then firing them across via cable to the Mac. But we'll give it a go. So let's have a quick look on here. Full screen Assassin's Creed Odyssey on Stadia. Obviously, there's a watermark because I am not paying for it until it's tested. And that's also why I've got a big red notification down there. I've got a little thumbs up. Thank you, whoever you may be. If out of interest, just ping me over a comment if you can, and I'll pop it up on the screen because that's one of the features of this application. A bit like StreamYard you've seen, and I have my own little patented way of doing it, which I will ultimately get around to creating a tutorial video on, so that you can see how that works. Everybody, the amount of content creators, they get in touch with me and say, how do you do it? And I'll get around to it eventually. It's not a trade secret. It's just a lot of trial and error. Hey, Krampus, how are you, my friend? So, yeah, so basically, I can add these to the broadcast. There we go. And fade them out. And there we go. Hey, Warlock, how are you, my friend? So, it's got a lot of the benefits that we're used to. As I say, I just trying to click the Mac keyboard to make the game work. This is going to be the problem. 2 keyboards, 2 screens, 2 computers, 1 stream. But what the heck? Let's have a look at these stats over here. You can't see these. Rolling required bandwidth, 12 megs. I mean, I've got a 1 gig connection, but the Mac Mini, which is what I'm using here, is on Wi-Fi. But it's still getting about 200 to 400 megs throughput. Rolling average at 12, that's cool. Yeah, that's kind of keeping a consistency, shall we say. Obviously, what I'm going to do in a second is to review what I've been doing. The camera's over there, screen's over there, hence why you're seeing my cheek most of the time. But that's okay, because I always think, you don't often see this, content creators don't always think about where they're looking on the screen in relation to where the viewer is looking. So I'm looking at you now, hi, and that's cool, we're getting some eye contact going on, but I'm looking away from the game. And I think that if you're a content creator and you're streaming a game, you should be looking into the game or at the game. It just feels more natural if you're, let me switch keyboards here, if you're obviously watching it. So the fact that I'm now looking at the game makes a heap of sense. And as of course it's Stadia, it's running on PC, so it's got the full 1 gig down bandwidth usage that I can stream with. I'm using my mic. All of this is going through Elgato, which obviously is separate hardware, so it's doing all the processing independent of both devices, which is why it should look pretty good to you, I'm hoping. I'm just having a look at the throughput on the Mac. We're getting, yeah, it's relatively consistent. It's dipping in and out a little bit, but it shouldn't look too bad for you guys. This is purely a test, by the way. I'm not actually intending to do any great length of streaming, and mainly because there is a spaghetti bolognese that's been sat on the table for the last 5 minutes, and any second now my dear wife will put her head round the door and say, it's getting cold. But I've been working on this all afternoon and I wanted to give it a try. I was getting some issues until recently, and That's good to know. Yeah, thanks for that, Wallop. The beauty of using a Mac is that the kit, Apple really does take care of a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, whereas Windows tends to get a bit flaky with video. So it's quite cool to have a look at it. Happy wife, happy life. Yes, so true. It's so true. And she's been out cutting the grass all afternoon while I've been in here messing about. But she knows me. Happy me. Happy me. Right. I'm glad the video's looking good, though. I don't know if you can hear the game. I can't hear me at all. I'm not getting any monitoring from this because all the audio is being pumped into the stream. So I could fix that. I could sort that out, I think. I can see on the monitor here there is some audio. Perhaps you guys can tell me. Can you hear the game? I sort of swish around a bit there. There we go. Maybe that will. Let's have a look. It's a great game, this. I don't know if you guys play any Assassin's Creed. There's just so many avenues that you can take in this game. You can't hear the game. No. Okay, Warlock, thanks for that, mate. So, yeah, it's just a setting. I'm convinced of that, probably at my end. So if I flick over, the other advantage to doing this, so for example, when we do PUBG on the old Rockstars at night, one of the problems that I have is if I've got my game going in Stadia, to then come out to OBS, which is what we use or what I use to stream it, you get that message that comes up. You no longer, you've lost control of the thing and you need to click to get it back and all that stuff, which is a pain in the bottom. It's not particularly attractive if you're trying to watch my stream. Even if I'm just flicking to, say, Daz's cam or to Duncan's cam, that's annoying. So doing this, though, would keep the two separate. So I would be controlling the Mac. So on here, I can bring up your comments. Obviously, I can flick in some of my own. I can even do stuff like this. Tell me if you hear this. Did you hear that? There's other ones. You can bring in your own. How about a little clap? Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Did you guys hear any of that stuff? Hopefully you did. So I can control all of that separately and independently to the game, which means you don't see the message that says, oh, you've given up on us. Although at this moment in time, I do need to do that. Yeah, good stuff. That's all built into the application. It's called Ecamm Live. As I've said, it's Mac only. Literally Mac only. They have zero intention ever of making it Windows based. But it's a beautiful looking Mac application. Obviously, I've got this thing that's popped up and says "Oi," but that's because I'm just trying to see if I can push the sound of the game towards. Yep, there we go. So, in theory, if this is worked correctly, let me get back into the game. Hey, Brian, how are you, my friend? This is just a test. I'm just trying out something called Ecamm Live. It's been around for a long time. It's not new, but I'm always, and I'm sure you do as well, I'm always trying to find the optimum solution for streaming. Most people just stick at StreamYard and that's the end of it. But I know you use a lot of green screen stuff. Just out of interest, what do you use for your editing? Because you must have a cracking workflow process, that the amount of content that you push out, and high quality content, I hasten to add. I use, or I was using when I was doing a lot of that stuff, DaVinci Resolve. But obviously there's Premiere, which is the usual favorite, and others. So in essence, using this, it allows me to, now there should be, guys, some audio from the game. If I just shut up, I can see if the meter's ticking. Okay, there is some definite noise, but that could just be background noise at my end. Tell me if you can hear the game. Let me come out of the game. let's get back into active duty, and I'll swish around with a knife. Yeah, you getting any audio from the game now? I'm basically pushing everything through the Elgato. So mic and game mix all going through, and I'm using this Elgato Wave microphone mixing software as well, which makes life a little easier. Hopefully you can hear that. Yeah, great. Thanks, Krampus. So yeah, that is a fully working solution. We've kept a consistent video quality as well. It's only 1920 1080. There's no massive reason for that, by the way. I could push higher. Filmora. Sorry, I'm just reading Bryant's. I have a software called Filmora. I film Sunday, everything on our set in my garage, and edit it all Sunday and Monday. So, but presumably, if something breaks on a Tuesday, you have to dive back in. Funny enough, mate, I'm also in my garage. Thank God for garages. My little set is a garage as well, but I don't have the setup that you perfected, which I think looks amazing. And is it the Royal We, or are you a team? I only asked this. I did watch. Obviously, I watched your interview last night. I was dying to ask you questions as a content creator. Obviously, Rev was keen to talk to you as a Stadia, as a founder and a supporter of Stadia. And I was like, yeah. But ask him what he uses and how does he do that, and how long does it take him, and why is he doing this, and what's he done before? And maybe there's scope for a show for content creators. I haven't thought that before. I mean, everything is kind of aimed at everyday folk, but that might be worth giving some thought to. I would hasten to add that as I've only been doing it for a few months, I would feel a bit of a sham. That was a phrase I was looking for. If I suddenly turned out to be putting a content creator show together. It's the Royal We. Yeah. Do you know, I'm the same. I always use the Royal We, and although I kind of got out of the habit because I don't know how much you know about me, but I actually have quite a reasonable size software development company with a reasonable sized team. So I kind of say we now, and it feels quite comfortable. But yeah, in the day, there was always a ton of us. Thank you, my friend. I really did enjoy that show last night, and it's great to see Rev back. He went through a dark patch, and then I suggested to Duncan about pulling him into Cloudy, and it's been really good. Watch this space. I'm not going to break the news, but somebody else has been recruited to Cloudy today, who's been in a little bit of a different place to where they were known for, and I think they're going to do some amazing stuff as well. And I'm still not going to break news on this. I'll leave this up to. There was also some other piece of massive news today around Cloudy. I only know this because I'm on their Slack. I don't do a huge amount of work on or in Cloudy, but obviously Duncan and I work together, and I support him with advice, I guess, if anything. I kind of see myself in a mentoring role. I used to be a shareholder in an online newspaper business, the Daily Group. It was sizable. I mean, there was about 7 or 8 shareholders in the 7-digit setup scale, and I sold out in the end. But nonetheless, I've got some experience in online media, newspapers, and so on. So I'll give them a little bit of support on that stuff for the sheer kick of it. Hey, look! See, mate, you see, I was very, very careful about what I broke there. But I am extremely proud of what the guys are doing. I mean, it is an amazing team, and I leave notifications on all day because it's a real jolt of positivity. So I'm running around, guys. I'm sorry if you're thinking to yourself, well, is he going to play this game or what? I'm genuinely testing this out. Whenever I run tests like this, I usually try and run a stream for a few minutes because that's when you see any vagaries in the data. upflow. So far, it's held quite well. Just pause to have a look at the metering. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm seeing it's looking good to me, but to be fair, I'm not seeing what you guys are seeing. So that's probably not meaning a great deal. Well, I always felt it was user generation, but the problem is that most people, I don't think most, from my experience, it's a really good question as well, Brian. Most people haven't got the arse to spend any time putting anything worth reading together more than a few sentences, and it tends to be opinionated and not particularly interesting. So where sort of user-generated content, UGC, was going to be the big thing, and that's partly what we were looking at. In reality, people can't be bothered. And we've got, I think, through social media, Twitter and Facebook have a lot to play in this. People just don't have the patience anymore. So I think it's user-engaged content, if that makes any sense. So the content is created by people like yourself that clearly have a talent and a background and potentially training. And it's embellished by others so that it becomes a conversation. I think that's potentially the future. I weep for the loss of some amazing journalists, and I mean, first grade hacks who would put the legwork in to find the news. There are people still out there that do it. I mean, people like Jason Schreier, who obviously has some amazing relationships, and that's half the key, isn't it? It's having those relationships. You were mentioning on your stream last night, various conversations that you'd had with various industry bodies and so on. And that is it. That's 99% of the law. If you've got those relationships, then you're getting in and you can ask the questions and you build trust. And but a lot of people don't put that effort in. They get on a PR list. There's a few in our Stadia community that have got very, very decent viewing figures, but that all they are is they're just on a PR output, and they regurgitate it. I haven't done any of that stuff. I haven't bothered. And I do want to do something different with my content. I realize that, you can only churn out news for so long, because it's easiest content, isn't it? Oh, hello. Where's my stream gone? Yeah. I think it is, and that comes and Brian, that comes down to likability as well, of course. If you can engage with an audience, and I'd hasten to add, and I think you know this, and you are part of this anyway. You can't make it up. People see through it if you're not a likable individual by nature. You can fake it for a little while, but you can't do it on a long-term basis. So I think if your personality, it's like everything, isn't it? I mean, we're in a, everyone goes around saying you can do whatever you want if you put your mind to it, but we all know we can't. We're not all destined to break the, fastest running distances on the track or be the best football players. It's physically, mentally not possible for us all to do whatever we want. But if you've got the skill, if you're a likable person, reasonably articulate and intellectual, and have the disposition, then I think that's potentially the future. I mean, you've only got to look at the really successful content creators. I mean, some of them are just completely mad, and they're just it's a little bit like Bedlam, isn't it? I don't know if you know about Bedlam. So Bedlam was a mental institution. You'll have heard the phrase Bedlam, but you may not know historically it was a mental institution in London. And, up until, I don't know, the 1960s, I guess, most of these places, you were thrown in a room and locked away and you rotted. And Bedlam was massive, and it was full of, just people that were poor. They weren't even necessarily mad. They certainly were. After a short while of being in there. But what Bedlam was famous for was they sold tickets. You could go and watch You could actually literally go and watch these poor wretches in their insanity. And that's where the phrase something, it's absolute bedlam. That's where it comes from. I don't know how I got onto that. Hi, Andy. How are you, mate? How are you, my friend? So, you are clever. Don't be so stupid. And also, in fact, Andy comes up with some of the most unique content in our community. And it's difficult. It must be bloody hard, mate, to sit there and come up with the stuff. And the problem is, once you get yourself on that treadmill and you're famous for turning out alternative stuff on a regular basis, very difficult to get off it as well. I mean, my initial content, my early content was just very detailed video, highly researched. It took me hours and days to do it, and I had to give it up. There was no way I could keep doing it. And the funniest thing is I'm rehashing it now. I'm just putting it out there as little snippets, and it's getting really good views. So it's brilliant if you can do that. I mean, that's why I take my hat off to Brian at Nerf Report, because to put the time in and turn out that level of quality day in, day out is a skill. It's an absolute skill and deserves all the success. But no, mate, you are, without a shadow of a doubt, a leading light in the community. And sometimes it's going to feel like nobody's watching and you're not appreciated. And that is the curse of an artist. It genuinely is. If you know the history of any of the greats, they go through periods of depression where they just don't feel they're appreciated, and people don't watch don't come to their concerts, or they don't come to their galleries. They're not buying their works, and then they just take off, and that's how we know about them. But just keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Just keep doing what you're doing, because the rest of us are watching and going, Jesus, how does he come up with that idea? That's absolutely stunning. Hey, Duncan, how are you, my friend? So I didn't break any news, but I did say you've got some news coming up about Cloudy soon. And two big events today in the evolution of the platform, which I'm looking forward. Have I ever written a book? Bless you. I actually am very good at copywriting, and it's just partly what I've always done. But yeah, do you know what has stopped me, Brian? And this is me completely laying it out there. What has stopped me from doing so much in my life is I'm a lazy bastard. There's so many things that I could have done and I haven't. And when I'm 53 now, and as you get into that kind of halfway to 100, you think it's not the same as I've done 50 years. I've got another 50 coming up. When you get to 50, you think, I've got 15 years left, and that's it. Mentally and physically, I'm off the planet. For the rest of it after there, I'm just having people wipe my ass and take the dribble off my chin. So yeah, it can get quite depressing when you get to this age, because you think all those things I know I could have done. I could have written a book. I could have been an actor. I could have been a singer. I could have done voiceover work. There's there's a load of creative stuff. I did a video a couple of months ago where I showed some old pictures, some drawings and stuff that I did when I was a kid, and it had some lovely comments. And that's another thing that I just never bothered. When I was a kid, I had put the time in, and then I stopped, and I haven't done it since. But thank you for that, mate. I appreciate that. I really do. But this is a medium that I love because it's immediate, it's quick. I started one of the first web design agencies in this country back in 94, I think it was. So 3 years after the World Wide Web was invented. Company called Website Limited. And up until then, I'd had a publishing business. I'd had an ad agency, a design agency, independently. And when the web came along, it was the fact that I could turn out creative staff at a real rate of knots that turned me on to it. And I've been in that kind of field ever since. And then doing this stuff it allows me to stretch a few other muscles that I've never stretched, but do it with immediacy, which I'm loving. And I think another key thing, one of the great things about putting a website up is that you've got immediate feedback. So people would come instantly visit the website and tell you where there was a problem. And when you're doing this kind of stuff that we're doing here today, you get instant feedback. There's people literally watching me now and giving me positivity, which propels you forward to want to do it more. Because we all want to be liked, don't we? Isn't that one of the main drivers? Truthfully, I know you could sit here and say, for some people it is money. There's no question of that. It isn't. This isn't. I'm not doing any of this for money. Hey, Lavelle, ladies and gentlemen, has just popped in. Let me just pop his little. There he is. This guy has been a friend of mine for how long is it now, Lavelle? It's got to be the thick end of 7, 8 years, maybe more. Never met. I don't think he did send me a happy birthday song once, bless him. We met through the weirdest of circumstances. Lavelle is in the States and sends me little whimsies every day on Twitter, and he just absolutely adores my Britishness. Gets off on it big time. It's always an absolute 7 years. There you go. It's an absolute pleasure to have a relationship with Lavelle. He's a great guy. Thanks, Brian. That's really kind of you. Yeah, funny enough, that partially that might come. Clive Illenden and I are looking at doing a kind of a two-headed thing on Mondays. So Clive does his little Monday night chat thing. We've talked about maybe expanding it out, and because what we found was after Tuesday nights when we do the Retro Club, we spend like 2 hours talking about stuff, largely around tech and Stadia. But it's just gold. It's just great stuff. And we both said I don't want to capture it, because if once you're being recorded, it's never going to be as authentic. But we both said we should do a show where we just do that. We just do that thing. We just do what I'm doing here now. Two inquisitive, experienced minds. We're literally both the same age. I mean, there's about 8 weeks between us, something like that. And bring on guests as well. People like you, Brian, actually, and Andy. People that have some real life experiences, and that would contribute to and Avery, for example, and Stadia Source, Duncan. People that just have stuff to say that probably don't get to say it in the same way in their normal content. So we're looking at that. And that's very kind of you to say that. So there you go. Look, Krampus knows I can sit here and talk forever. So I'm going to call it a night. I'm going to go and grab my spaghetti bolognese, which the dear wife's put out there. I really appreciate you guys turning up. This just simply was me testing this application, which it's $25 a month. But when you look at StreamYard, for example, their pro version is $50. It's $50, right? And this does everything that StreamYard does. With the one thing it doesn't do is the kind of the talking head guest thing, which is really good from StreamYard's perspective. But this is a desktop-based application, and I use OBS Ninja, which does the same job. You can use Skype as well, so there's ways around it. But yeah, so I may or may not invest in this. I haven't made my mind up yet, but it's good to test it. But yeah, look, more importantly, thank you everybody for just popping in. Just a little bit of an impromptu from myself. I wasn't intending to get into a chat. Brian, as always, mate, thank you very much for all you do and for your kind words here tonight. Krampus, thank you as well. Krampus is a patron and has been every day almost. gives me great words of encouragement and kindness, and shares his thoughts on each of my shows, which is massively valuable feedback. Which is, it's great. I mean, that is exactly what you would want from a patron, and it's hugely appreciated. Yeah, it is. And it's a beef one, which I know you're all going to go, well, isn't? Yeah, right. Isn't all spaghetti bolognese beef? No, because all of my family are vegetarian apart from me. So tonight I get a special treat. My eldest has gone back to university, and she's the biggest veggie of them all. So I actually get to have proper real meat tonight. So I'm quite looking forward to that with a bit of cheese on top. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend. Tomorrow morning, Duncan and I will be doing Stadia Rocks Live. And then we have a holiday Monday here in the UK. I've no idea why. End of summer holiday, I guess. I've no idea. But I'll be around, as always. I appreciate your time, guys. And take care. I don't know how I end this. Oh, there you go. Little button that says finish. Take care. Cheers.